pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back to Why Is That? Or could I just call it Why Is That 2.0 again? Like I said earlier, I'm kind of going in or out on this whole thing about calling it either 2.0 or Season 2 or something like that. I guess 2.0 is like a synonymous term relating to a Season 2 or a Part 2 or an Episode 2, but regardless, I'd say there's going to be a lot that I probably will have in terms of, well, content in general that probably is going to be known as 2.0 officially, but of course I will regard them as being their own seasons. So, in general, I'd just like to say that regardless of what it is, Why Is That is still going to be around for a while. And I mean a while. It could be a decade or so before I even decide to drop this. Well, anyways, here we go. This is number 56 out of 65. I'm already less than 10 questions away from being over with this one because it's getting a little overwhelming. So the question down here simply asks me, why is that you also compose vocalist music each year? And now, in all honesties, I would kind of digress from this. Because not every single song I've ever composed and uploaded to my channel, that is owned by me, by the way, appears to be vocalists. Of course, I try to go in line with most of today's synthwave artists out there, like Duet or Kavinsky or Carpenter Brute, or people like them, basically. Although I will say for sure that there's certainly a lot that I will say about my compositions as a whole, because the idea that I first came up with to put music out on my channel as an official music of mine that I compose myself, it goes as far back as summer of 2009. Yeah, a year after I started my channel, that was when I pretty much thought about trying something different. Other than just, well, the conventional things of recording myself on a camera, putting it up on YouTube just like that. There were a lot of skits that I made back then during those times, because that's pretty much what YouTube was like. It was a source for entertainment, local entertainment that people would just do by recording themselves and putting their faces out there for the world to see. That's kind of what I liked, as a matter of fact. There was a lot of positive attention that I've gotten here and there, and some of which was negative. But you know what? I managed to pull myself through all that because, after all, I will say that everything that I've already done so far relating to music compositions, I could say that I'm doing pretty darn good here because, after all, even though the idea goes as far back as 2009, I didn't officially put some of my own music up on my channel, ones that I composed myself, up until around November of 2018, with a 4-singled extended play album called Catching a Grip. Yeah. It contained 4 songs on them. And let me tell you firsthand, the first time I went ahead going through them, that wasn't necessarily the best that I might have done, because after all, I wasn't necessarily a pro when it came to music compositions, but I tried my best. And of course, throughout 2019 was where it got even better. Much better. I could probably rate myself a solid 7.5 out of 10 based on those compositions there, but here in 2020, I'm actually striving to do even better than I possibly have been. I've already released a couple extended play albums, as well as an LP album. The first LP album I ever released was on July 12th, 2019. And then, of course, there was another one that I released this past February. So 6 months later, looking back at it now, I feel like I could have done a bigger, better standard when it came to music compositions in general. So I still kind of rate myself between 7.5 and 8.0. Not necessarily professional here. So that just goes to show that even though I might not be the best when it comes to music compositions, I could say I'm pretty much going to be going in line with the kind of talent that some composers out there like Hans Zimmer, Raymond Jawadi, Lorna Balfa, or other people like them are. Except I'm not necessarily composing when it comes to like a movie score. I'm tended to pretty much do music compositions that have to do with synthwave or EDM or house, techno, genres like those. Not necessarily cinematic as I possibly would want it to be, but I have tried to install some cinematic elements into some of my music, and sometimes I was successful with it, but other times it can be a bit difficult to pull off. But overall, I'd say I'm doing a lot better than I used to back then. 2 years of change, 2 years of evolution, 2 years of all things. And I'm doing a whole lot better now than I have been. All thanks to Magix. Magix Music Maker 2017 is the software that I'm currently using. It's always updating with tons of new sound pools and instruments and emulators that reflect different instruments and the like that I can always use anytime to make a new track and to make music as a whole. So, vocalist music though. I wouldn't say it's always vocalist. After all, it's not like vocals are a necessity when it comes to music. It's not like it's a law. It's not like it's a written Congress-approved related rule that America has to follow. There's millions of users out there worldwide that don't even want to have their voice being put on music. And I have tried it myself, and well, it's kind of because of the kind of microphones that I use to record my voice. That kind of ruins the whole experience. So, that's usually why I just stick to vocalist type of music out there. But if I have to utilize vocals in them, then well, I guess it's just normal speech, like what I'm doing right now. Nothing really harmonic or anything like that, just normal speech. Occasionally I would put in recordings of someone else's voice, like I've already put in recordings of voices that have been done by George W. Bush, Gilbert Gottfried, James Rolfe, and dozens of others here and there. I've even done Chris Rock at one point. That's right. I took a voice recording from an interview at one point between Chris Rock and someone else, and used it as part of one of my songs from last year's LP album. Yeah. 13 months later, I'd say, looking back at it, I'm doing pretty darn good with what it is. And there's a good chance I might continue to do that kind of stuff here. I could probably just grab recordings of people's voices here and there and put them on some of my songs, because that's what a lot of artists have actually done. So, I don't really know if that's supposed to be legal or whatnot, but seeing as how a lot of users have done it, including Linkin Park, yeah. I figured I could do it as well. So, that's pretty much all I got to talk about based on this in general. And well, questions 57, 58, and 59 will be coming soon, and all the way to the end. I will definitely have a lot of new material to work with. But for the moment, if you want to see more go down on my channel, make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.